Do you like to explore? Perhaps you've discovered some crazy things on your journeys. I'm Bob from World 5 List. Gear up with me as we go exploring to discover 9 of the craziest things ever found in the world's jungles. Number 9. A Nazi stronghold. Now, the Nazis were, by and large, one of the greatest threats that the world ever knew. Adolf Hitler took a country that had been broken by the First World War and then rebuilt them from the ground up, becoming a superpower. Now, for years, they did dominate much of the continent of Europe, causing terror wherever they would go. However, as World War II prolonged, and with the arrival of the United States, the Nazis soon realized that there might be a chance they would lose the war. So, what did they do? That's when they decided to make a backup plan. More specifically, a backup facility in Argentina. Ironic? Perhaps, but it is true. Not only did the Nazis make this facility, they also stockpiled it with gold, artifacts, treasures, and other various things, all so that they could restart when the time was right. The plan was for the highest-ranking officers to go there when things began to fall apart, and they built the structure to last. The walls are even 10 feet thick. Plus, they were smart, and they made it in a place that you'd really have to be looking for on the map. And just as ironic, well, even though the structure was built and filled up with treasures, it's believed that the Nazis never even got a chance to use it for its purpose. It is possible, however, that someone did make it back, but no one will ever truly know for sure. Number 8. A boiling river. Now, think about water for a second. Think about where you see it and how you get it. Now, think about the temperature of the water. How does it feel when it touches your hands? It's probably kind of cold, right? For most people, you have to turn the faucet on and let it run for a little bit, but that takes time. That is, unless you're in the Peruvian jungle and you stumble upon the Mayantuyacu, which is a literal boiling river. Now, I'm not just talking about warm or even hot. I'm talking literal boiling river. Like you could make tea in this river, or even cook spaghetti in it. And if you fell into the river, well, you'd probably die from the heat that it emanates. Interestingly enough, though, the river was one of the legends that came from the Crusade in order to find El Dorado. Inspired by the legend, a man named Andre Ruzzo decided to go and find it, and he did with the help of his aunt, making it a family affair. As it turns out, though, the native people of the jungle view this as a sacred treasure, and they use it for all sorts of things, including the heating of their food, the washing of their clothing, and more. Just don't use it for a hot tub. Number 7. A city beneath a city. The thing about the jungle that people sometimes forget is that because of the natural state of it, you can build things there that nobody's going to find unless you're absolutely looking for it. Henri Mouhot was one lucky French explorer who just happened to stumble upon one of the biggest discoveries of mankind ever. He found a literal city that was hiding in the jungle. Better yet, it was also a medieval city called Angkor, and it was special in a lot of ways. Not the least of which that it also featured the largest complex of temples ever documented in the world. Are you still not impressed? Well, this city was also so massive that it took 100 years to excavate the entire thing. And yet, perhaps the biggest secret of all was found when they were done with the excavation, because they also found an entire city that was beneath the city, one that had apparently been made centuries before Angkor was ever built. But how did they know this exactly? Well, as it turns out, the structure of the other city was entirely different and even had sand embankments, which had never been seen in a city like that before. So, who exactly built the city? And why was Angkor built over top of it? These are mysteries that are still being asked to this day, and it is a pretty cool thing. Number 6. A carbon bomb. Now, you might think that it takes a lot to make something explode, and in some cases you're probably right. Bomb making is a very meticulous process after all. You have to make sure you get the job done right. However, what if I told you that a swampland within the Congo Basin had one of the biggest bombs inside of it, one that was right beneath your feet? And furthermore, what if I told you that that explosive was carbon? Carbon is a building block of our existence. Everything in the world has carbon, even you and me and every other human on the planet. Now, carbon can be used for a lot of things, including making fossil fuels. Scientists have been mapping out the Congo Basin for quite a while now, and they stumbled upon what they referred to as a carbon sink, where carbon is literally below the ground just sitting there, or in this case, lying there. Now, there's so much carbon, in fact, that it could fuel the United States for 20 years if they dug it all up. But what about that bomb that I mentioned? Well, because of how the carbon is mixed with the swampland, it's naturally wet. But if the water goes away and the carbon then mixes with the air, then everything around it has the potential to explode. Not bad for a building block of life. Number 5. A cave with its own jungle. In Vietnam, there's a cave that was discovered that is, in fact, the largest cave in the world today. It measures 200 meters high and goes on for miles, which is ironic because the entrance of the cave itself is so incredibly small. So if you make it to the mouth of the cave, you're going to find yourself in disbelief once you enter. What you're going to see in that cave is its very own jungle, which is possible because the roof of the cave has fallen in at points, allowing the sunlight to grow various plants within its depths. But wait, there's more. The cave also has its own mist field, which somehow moves around. Oh, and the cave jungle also somehow has a river inside of it. It's an entire ecosystem that should not really be existing in a cave, but it totally does. This one is one of the true unofficial wonders of the world because man had no part in making it happen, and it may have turned out for the best because of it. Number 4. The corpse flower. The corpse flower is super massive, at over 3 feet wide from petal to petal, and weighs in around 24 pounds. What's more is the plant also has 17 variations of itself that can be found in places like Sumatra, Malaysia, Borneo, and more. Now, corpse flower is actually just a nickname for the plant, and that's because of what it does to get its food. It's going to emit a smell that then lures in carrion flies deep within its basin in the center of the plant. They go in and they never come out. Another interesting fact about the flower is that it's actually a parasite, living off of a specific victim with a life cycle that's really hard to understand and almost impossible to replicate. Many have tried to grow some inside of laboratories or other vicinities, but with no fortune, proving that there are still plenty of surprises to be had in the jungle. Number 3. Soldiers lost to time. War can do a lot of things to people, and much of it isn't really all that good. In some cases, the jungle did provide refuge that could protect them from capture and even be useful for strategy to initiate attacks against their enemies. But there have also been several cases of soldiers that have been found within the jungle, both dead and alive. And in one case, a Japanese soldier was told to go into the jungle and wait for orders from his commanders. And so he did, for 29 years. Now, in that time, he did stay hidden and committed attacks against any search parties that tried to find him, even fighting the police at times. They tried to communicate with him and even left actual notes from his commanders, meant for soldiers like him who were hiding in the forest, but he didn't believe it and continued to hide until he was eventually captured. 2 more Japanese soldiers also spent 60 years in the jungle before finally emerging to find themselves in a new world. Number 2. The White City of the Monkey God. Now, there are many legends that are hidden within the jungle. You likely know the one of El Dorado, but there's one that's just as prevalent and mysterious. It's known as the White City of the Monkey God. Now, some people claim that the 2 legends are one and the same. The catch here, though, is that the Monkey God City appears to have actually been found. This legend would be passed down by explorers, as well as Herman Cortez, the legendary conquistador, which is likely why the 2 legends are intertwined. However, there have also been other people who have claimed to have found the city, including the Bishop of Honduras, who wrote about the city in a letter to the King of Spain in the year 1544. Then, an explorer by the name of Theodore Morde claimed that he had also found the city, but apparently killed himself not long after his declaration. Even now, though, via some very cool technology, the White City of the Monkey God has apparently been found officially. The city itself is actually within a crater, one that's protected in such a way that it's almost impossible to find. The people who did find it, though, were amazed by what was inside. There were treasures and artifacts and wonders that could keep them occupied for years. And what's more, they also believe that this transcends the legend of the White City of the Monkey God, because they also believe that it's an undiscovered civilization entirely. Number 1. Tarzan. Okay, not really Tarzan, but something pretty close. During the Vietnam War, a man named Ho Van Tan lost his wife and daughter due to a landmine. This, of course, would leave him devastated and not really sure of what to do with his life. Seeking to get away from the madness of the war, he then took his son and went into the jungle to live. Fast forward 40 years, and some people found the two in a treehouse high above the ground. Now, they weren't exactly struggling, because they had made themselves quite a living, including having tools and weapons to hunt so they could eat, and a whole lot more. Tan was now 80 years old and extremely weak, but his son was super ripped, and all that work within the jungle had made him very muscular. Also, just like Tarzan, the son didn't even know any language, and the father had forgotten most of the words. As if that wasn't enough, when the father was taken to a hospital to get treatment, he frequently tried to escape back into the jungle. What about you, though? Would you ever go into the jungle to try and discover something mysterious and creepy that nobody'd found before? Let me know all about it in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more in the future. Thanks for watching.